So in today's video, I'm going to cover the design of this toggle component and just kind of break down how we've achieved this look. You could call this a skeuomorphic look. That's kind of the common term for these kind of components, where it looks and feels quite physical, almost realistic, and very tactile, almost like you can put your finger on the screen and touch it essentially. With skeuomorphic components like these, pretty much in every case it's just all about the shadows essentially. So there's nothing crazy here that you haven't seen in any normal toggle component. It's really how we've added the shadows and crafted the actual toggle nodule, or whatever you want to call that. It's really all in the shadows on that basically, and some coloring as well. So I'll just break down how you can achieve that kind of look, and then this is something you can apply to other components, designs, and yeah, something that you can play around with. Now, the first thing that makes this different is often with a toggle component, you would probably just have this be just standard kind of a flat white circle to flick between each state. But to achieve that more realistic look, what we've done here is we've got a linear gradient essentially. So we've got a very subtle white color, so it's not pure white, it's a bit more gray, and then the gradient is moving up to a lighter kind of shade of that just to kind of imitate, again, lighting a space essentially, to make it feel like it's in a space with some natural lighting of some sort. So that's the main thing. And obviously if you compare this to take the shadows off and just make this pure white and just put a little shadow there, you can see how different that makes it look when you have it like that essentially. So the next thing is the actual shadows and stuff. So obviously we have the actual circle nodule, we have the linear gradient, and then basically it's a bunch of shadows really. So the first one we've got is this top shadow, which is really adding a lot to this. Now it's adding that bright touch of light at the top, again making it feel like there's a light source coming down onto it, making it feel just like it's in a real space essentially. So all that is an inner shadow, and I've done 2.5 and then a blur of 1 and 100%, because we want that to really stand out against those grays. And this is something that you can play with, and if I try 4 it's going to be a bit thicker, so this is something you can play around with. But again, often this is more, so I've just done 2.5 here, but you could mess with this however you see fit really. Cool. So if I turn off the other shadows, so we've got the initial structure of this now, but it's still not looking and feeling the way we want it. So let's add the next shadow, which is this one, the second inner shadow basically. And now you can see that this is looking and feeling, it's starting to look and feel a bit more realistic. It looks like it has some depth now essentially. So again, that's another inner shadow, and that's just -3 on the Y, and a blur of 1, and then just 12%. And again, this is something that you can do kind of to fit your design. These are all values that you can mess with and play around with. This is not a perfect set of shadows for this kind of thing. You can get really in depth with some of these skeuomorphic designs, but this is giving you a basic idea of how you can achieve this kind of look. So we've got that gray inside, that slight gradient, we've got our top light source, and we've got our bottom kind of shadow, because obviously if the light is coming from the top and then it's thick, you're going to have that darker section at the bottom, so it's starting to look and feel a bit more real. The next shadow we're going to add is a kind of blurred shadow. Now this is like something that you can really play around with. We've just got 4 on the Y and a blur of 8 and then 32% there basically. This is quite a pronounced shadow, but again it's trying to make it look and feel just quite prominent. You could get a bit more subtle with this maybe and bring it down a little bit more. I've just made it quite prominent to make it just look and feel quite bold and quite fun, and make it stand out essentially. So now it's really starting to look and feel pretty good really. We've got that look starting to come through. It's starting to look clickable and physical, and there's lots of depth to it. And then really all we have to do now is one final shadow, which is another drop shadow, and you can see how that final drop shadow really just brings it all together, basically, by giving it that effect that it's right up against a surface, and you can just see and feel that kind of, that natural kind of shadow look to it, as if it's against the surface, really. So if I toggle this on and off, you can see how much of a difference that makes. It just, as soon as you add that, it gives it that super clean look, and it really ties it all together. So yeah, that's kind of just a really quick breakdown of that. Obviously feel free to pause the video on some of the shadows if I went a bit too quick, but hopefully that gives got some good ideas there for how you can make your components look and feel a bit more realistic. You could apply this to a number of different things. You could apply this to a tab component, you could apply this to a button. This would be a really cool kind of shadow variation to test on a button. So this is something you can test on a number of different components. This is by no means a perfect way to create a skeuomorphic look to something, but I think you zoom out, I think it gives it a really nice kind of look and feel to the toggle. It looks super kind of physical and touchable and realistic. And yeah, you got some value out of that and fun trying this out in some of your designs, basically. So see you next time.